during takes of the performance, Dave Franco was dry retching for real whilst doing it because he couldn't help himself. And I'm very proud to say that I have a photoreal practical Dave Franco on my wall that we used for that
Wow.
scene.
Take me through the inspiration for this film, Michael.
Well, I think it's mostly inspired by the fact that I've been in a long-term relationship now for over 16 years. And you know, you get to a point in a relationship where you are as close as you can possibly be, and you start to live together. You realize that you have the same friends, you listen to the same music, you breathe the same air. And I remember going through a bit of a panic where I realized that my partner and I were absolutely sharing a life, and I didn't really tell where I ended and she began. And that kind of really made me think about oh, there's something to be said there about exploring those themes and exploring those anxieties. And what if you were sharing a life and becoming so close with somebody that you started to even share flesh and blood? And that was a fun way into making something that was. I saw that and I thought of that and thought, oh, that's a body horror film, which is one of my kind of favorite subgenres. And it just was a way to explore something that I thought was thematically kind of rich and hopefully would be relatable to a lot of people, but also like satisfy the genre filmmaking little kind of technical freak inside me as well.
You know, this could be the beginning
You roll over, then you're on my hair.
of something wonderful.
Tim.
And body horror has never really gone away, but it does feel like it's having a bit of a mainstream moment at the moment after The Substance last year. Do you feel that your film kind of arrives at the perfect time to tap into that?
I mean, I hope so. I think it was really sort of edifying to see something as kind of bold as The Substance have such kind of wide appeal and make such waves. That said, like this is absolutely a film with so much body horror in it, but it's far less sort of grand guignol kind of kitsch as The Substance is. Like we very much, this film starts in a real place with a real relationship at the center of it, that as the premise kind of reveals itself more and more gets to kind of crazier and more heightened places. I think this is a film that kind of opens up and becomes more of a thrill ride the kind of longer it goes.
Tell me about locking in Dave Franco and Alison Brie, because I couldn't imagine anybody else doing a better job.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazingly kind of fortuitous that it happened. Like this is a script I wrote years ago, and then I had written this other script that got on a thing called the Blacklist in
Yeah.
LA, which, you know, long story short, it just means that this other script was being passed around town by film execs, and it was getting kind of a lot of heat. And from the heat of that script, somebody set me up with a just a general meeting with Dave, and we just kind of got on and we were kind of getting to know each other. And I knew that he liked horror because he directed a horror film called The Rental that I'd really liked. And I just
Yeah.
sort of thought, hey, I've got the script. Like, you know, if you don't mind, I'll send it to you and see what you think. Not thinking that he'd want to come on board and act, like fingers crossed that he would, but just kind of thinking, oh, maybe he'll read it and think, this guy can write. Maybe I'll get him to write something for me. And within a couple of days, he'd read it. And apparently he just went straight to his partner, Alison Brie, and said, I think we got to do this.
Whiskey for the pain.
It's amazing to me as well. It's such a unique situation where you have the actors playing this on-screen relationship, or also in an off-screen relationship, which to me just suits the themes of the film so perfectly. But from your perspective, how did Dave and Allison's real-life relationship inform the characters and their performances?
I think it adds an emotional reality to the characters and their performances, but also like they have this history together. The characters when we meet them in the film have been dating for over a decade. They've been together, and same have Allison and Dave. Same with my partner and myself. That formed kind of a lot of inspiration for this. So it was kind of funny. There was like a little bit of like a May December type thing where in some ways Dave is playing a character kind of based on me. And then on the final day of shooting, I did some pickups dressed in Dave's costume, playing myself whilst Dave was directing me in his costume. And but in terms of them being a real life couple, we require them to be so emotionally and physically intimate and vulnerable with each other in this film that they just had no fears in terms of being that vulnerable in front of one another, which was great because this again was such a low budget Australian film that we didn't have a lot of time to, if things went wrong, we didn't have time to kind of redo them. So we needed to get things done and we needed to get them done quickly. And it was also really heightened emotion, heightened physicality, and heightened from a technical, perspective, because there's lots of practical effects, lots of puppets, also lots of visual effects kind of going on in this film. So to have people that had this emotional shorthand, and also just on a practical level, we had a day where they had to be fully nude basically the entire day. And so to have lead actors who were comfortable in front of each other like that was really great. Also, we had days where they were physically connected via prosthetics that we didn't have the budget to take off and re-put back on. So they had to literally go to the bathroom in front of each other for days at a time. And you would never ask any actors to do that unless they happened to be producers on the film that were married and were just like, yeah, no worries, we're happy to do that. Like they were
Yeah.
just so wonderful to work with.
Yeah, I'm assuming you didn't even need an intimacy coordinator, right?
No, that was one of the first things Alison said is like, hey, I don't think I want an intimacy coordinator to tell me how I'm allowed to kiss my husband. We did have an intimacy coordinator on board for kind of the stand-ins and some of the
Yeah,
extras because of some other
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
But in terms of our main couple, no, it was just easy peasy.
Well, well, you've touched on something that I wanted to talk to you about because I just would love to know what sort of briefs you were giving to the prosthetics team and the special effects team to just to bring this vision to life.
Well, in terms of the practical effects, like I have a background in visual effects. I did most of the visual effects in the film myself because, again, very low budget. So
Yeah,
the practical effects was something I was super excited by because it's something I don't have any idea on how to make it. And I love body horror films from the 80s. I love, Cronenberg. I love like Carpenter's The
yeah, yeah,
Thing, and even like Stuart Gordon and Brian Usna films. But one of the briefs was that so much body horror feels too was very kitsch and kind of
yeah.
really ironic, and it's like doing throwbacks to the 80s with things that are really kind of slimy, and I wanted the body horror in this as a point of difference to feel kind of dry, to kind
Yeah.
of feel there are moments where we get a little sticky, but for the most part I wanted it to feel like bones cracking and unpleasantly collapsing together rather than kind of the schloop and goop. I wanted it to feel a little more rooted in reality, and so that was, I think, a point of difference for how, a lot of this other stuff, you'd just kind of create a puppet and cover it in slime. And, this was not the slime movie.
And in terms of one scene of the body horror that you look back on and you're like particularly proud of,
Mhm.
what is it?
I think I'm really proud of it all, but I'm very proud of there's a scene kind of a third of the way through involving hair in a bed that was just a scene that when we were shooting it, I couldn't believe somebody was letting me do this. Like it was just so over the top. It was so crazy, so horrible. During takes of the performance, Dave Franco was dry retching for real whilst doing it because he couldn't help himself. And I'm very proud to say that I have a photoreal practical Dave Franco on my wall that we used for that
Wow.
scene.
Wow.
That I couldn't bear to see that live wrapped in plastic like Laura Palmer on the floor of the storage room, so I just screwed it into my office wall.
I can imagine you walk into the office at night, turn the light on, and then see a jump scare almost on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got some more kind of around the room. I mean, another great high point of the practical side of things is, look, I'm just like a big filmmaking nerd. So every part of this process was just like a dream for me. I wanted to be as involved as possible, and I managed to get myself a cameo in the film that required me to not have to act at all, but or did require me to get my head like molded and completely recreated. And so that was a really fun experience of getting molded and turned into kind of a practical kind of corpsey sort of looking thing, and having people puncture in every single one of my hairs and they perfectly matched all the grays that are coming through on my little Reed Richards sides. It was I just wanted to be as involved as possible, and now I have a bloated decomposing version of my own head in a glass case.
And cut.